Koutou, assalamu alaykum. Yesterday was Nakba Day. The 15th of May 1948 was the day after the proclaimed birth of the State of Israel. But this was not when the Nakba started. To say something about the Nakba, I am going to talk about the massacre at Deir Yassin, which took place more than a month earlier. Many of you have heard of the Deir Yassin massacre, though it was not the greatest massacre of the Nakba, nor more brutal than many others. It may be famous for the wrong reasons. It was, however, a key moment in the long genocide against Palestinians and in the blood-drenched establishment of the IDF. The Nakba made refugees of over 600,000 Palestinians. Almost all fled on foot, guarded by armed Zionists who would sometimes kill refugees for sport. One Palmach soldier said it was because watching people walk was boring. Most Israelis, even to this day, will try to tell you Palestinians only fled their homes because they were told to do so by the Arab states who went to war against Israel. Do we believe them? No! I couldn't hear that. Do we believe them? No, we don't believe them. Because as the great comedian Alexei Sale tells us, they lie and 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 they lie. In reality, by this time, 76 years ago, 200,000 Palestinians had already been ethnically cleansed. They did not leave their lives behind to flee for trivial reasons. They fled because of violence. This was not merely the fear of being caught in the crossfire of war. They fled because the Irgun, Lehi and Haganah forces were using violence against the civilian population to drive them out. They slaughtered civilian men, women and children so as to ensure that the others would know to expect no mercy. The first such massacre of this period began on December the 31st in 1947. Haganah forces went in the dead of the night to residents in the town of Balad al-Sheikh with orders to, quote, kill maximum adult males. In another overnight operation, Haganah forces went into Sasa. Their order read, quote, you have to blow up 20 houses and kill as many warriors as possible. But according to Elan Pape, warriors should be read as villagers to understand the order. The Haganah claimed that the village was a haven for Palestinian fighters. Do we believe them? No! I still can't hear you. Do we believe them? No! No, we do not believe them, because they lie and 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 they lie.
It's the biggest mass lie in history.
The Haganah forces met with absolutely no return fire as they killed people. There were no fighters there, only murderers. Then there was the Deir Yassin massacre, carried out primarily by Irgun and Lehi, though Haganah were crucial, as I will detail shortly. Deir Yassin was uninvolved in fighting and had a non-aggression pact with the Haganah. A report to the UN on the violence there stated that, quote, the killing of some 250 men, women and children took place in circumstances of great savagery. Women and children were stripped, lined up, photographed and then slaughtered by automatic firing. The survivors have told of even more incredible bestialities. Those who were taken prisoner were treated with degrading brutality. 25 men and boys were paraded through a Jewish neighborhood of Jerusalem before being taken to a quarry and mowed down with submachine guns. This was not the most prolific massacre of the Nakba. Historian Thomas Suarez suggests that this is more famous because it was carried out by right-wing militias which makes it easier for liberal Zionists to digest. In addition, it is probably famous because the Haganah themselves spread the story of the horrors. It was their showcase massacre, and they made sure that people knew the gory details. Young fanatics, some of them still adolescents, had thrown grenades into people's dwellings, then shot everyone with automatic weapons before finishing off survivors with knives and sabres. But Deir Yassin may be famous for the wrong reason. This horrific bloodletting was also the true birthplace of the IDF. This was a systematic, documented and undeniable act of genocide, a coordinated, calculated mass killing that showed a clear intent to visit destruction upon the Palestinian people as such. This is the real origin of the IDF. Now, some of you may not know the organizations I've mentioned. Irgun, Lehi and Haganah, which had an army of 5,000 regular commandos called Palmach. These are the three forces that were combined in May 26, 1948 to create the IDF. According to most Israeli and most Western historians, Haganah were the moderates compared with the openly terroristic Irgun and fascistic Lehi. That is what they say about Haganah, but do we believe them? No, we do not believe them because they lie and 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 they lie. The Haganah was effectively the military arm of the Jewish Agency for Palestine, and both were led by David Ben-Gurion. We know from their actions and from private documents that they have always sought to establish a single ethnically cleansed Jewish state, taking all of Palestine by means of violence. But they postured by condemning the fascism of revisionists like Zev Jabotinsky, who openly talked about these things. The Haganah, as we have seen, were responsible for many massacres. And even while it was the Irgun who carried out the most notorious bombing of the Mandate period, when they killed 91 people at the King David Hotel in 1946, it was the Haganah that carried out the more deadly bombing of the ship Patria in 1940, where 267 Jewish refugees from Europe were killed because Haganah's leaders preferred to see them dead than sent away from Palestine. Shame. Shame. And even though it was Lehi that openly fought to ally with the Nazis, it was the Haganah that actually reached out to the Third Reich and even smuggled Adolf Eichmann into Palestine, disguised as a German journalist, in order to negotiate an agreement with the Nazi regime. Shame. Shame. And furthermore, it was the Haganah who were the ultimate force behind the massacre at Deir Yassin. By the time of Deir Yassin, the strategy of ethnic cleansing had been formalized. After different approaches had been entertained, it was decided to implement Plan D or Plan Dalet on the 10th of March 1948. They claimed that Plan Dalet was meant to protect Jewish civilians by temporarily removing nearby Palestinian populations that might provide shelter for Palestinian resistance fighters. Do we believe them? No! No, we do not believe them, because altogether now they lie and 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 they lie. Plan Dalet was a plan of ethnic cleansing, a plan of genocide. They cleansed whole cities like Haifa, whose non-Jewish population was reduced from 65,000 to 4,000. 400 to 600 Palestinians' villages were erased from the map. It's very clear that from the beginning the intent was to permanently erase the people from the land, and after hostilities ended, the Israelis took every measure to make sure that Palestinians could not reclaim their land and property. Those who left, but despite the dangers returned, were still designated as absentees by Israel, denied citizenship, denied their homes, their land, and their businesses.
Shame!
The state of Israel was built on this stolen property. Jewish settlers themselves owned little of the land and far less of the commercial infrastructure. They needed terror and murder to grab these things. The Haganah wanted to keep their hands clean, so they brought Ergon and Lehi in to massacre the peaceful residents of Deir Yassin. Not despite the non-aggression agreement they had with the village, but because of it. Then as now, the peace and coexistence they claim to want would not give them the ethno-state that they desire. It is not the actions of Palestinians that threaten them. It is and always was their existence, the existence that they now refer to as a demographic threat. So the Haganah brought these others in to do the dirty work. It was the first joint operation of the three militias. It was the first action of what was to become the IDF. The IDF would murder, rape and torture throughout the rest of the Nakba in places like Tantura, Al-Dawayima and Abu Shusha. They used biological warfare on civilians in what was called Operation Cast Thy Bread. They deliberately spread typhoid and dysentery with notable success in the city of Acre. The IDF was born out of this genocidal slaughter, and they still claim to be the most moral army in the world.
Nice.
Are you going to tell me that you believe them?
No!
No, you don't believe them, because they lie, and 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 they lie. Thanks to the IDF, the desert bloomed with death, grief, loss, and dispossession. They made a stateless population greater in number than their entire citizenry. Both inside and outside of Palestine, their victims would face lives of oppression, discrimination, poverty, vulnerability, and frequent violence. As we all know, they still do 78 years later. The Nakba will not be over until all of those who suffer this exile are able to return. The Nakba is still with us, and it will be until Palestine is a free state with rights for all its people. It is time for all Palestinians to be able to go home. That is no lie. Thank you.